In a world overflowing with advice, where every voice shouts do more, be more, care more, we often find ourselves drowning under the weight of endless expectations. We chase success, approval, and perfection, yet inside we feel exhausted, anxious, and strangely empty. But what if the secret to living better is not found in adding more, but in caring less? Manson, with a raw and unapologetic voice, brings us The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F*ck, a book that dares to strip life down to its essence. Behind its bold title lies a surprising wisdom, that the key to happiness is not about avoiding problems, but about choosing which problems are worth your energy. In this episode of Guide to Reads, we will journey through Manson's philosophy, a philosophy that challenges our culture of positivity, confronts the illusions we cling to, and teaches us the courage of setting boundaries for the heart and mind. So, dear listener, take a deep breath. Let us walk together into a world where freedom is not in saying yes to everything, but in the wisdom of knowing when to say no. 1. Don't try. Manson begins his book with a paradox, the words "don't try" carved into the gravestone of writer Charles Bukowski. At first it sounds like an excuse for laziness, but in truth it holds a deeper wisdom. We live in a culture obsessed with success. Everywhere you turn, people tell you to push harder, dream bigger, hustle more. Yet this constant striving often leads to the opposite of happiness. It leaves us anxious, burned out, and never satisfied. Bukowski, a man who struggled with poverty, addiction, and rejection, became successful only when he stopped trying to be what others expected him to be. He embraced his flaws, his failures, his raw, unpolished voice, and that authenticity was what made his writing powerful. Manson argues that life is not about chasing positivity or endless achievement. Instead, it's about embracing reality as it is. The more we chase after being extraordinary, the more ordinary we feel. The more we try to hide our pain, the more it grows. So, what does "don't try" really mean? It means stop pretending. Stop living for the approval of others. Instead, live authentically. Care less about superficial success and care more about what is true, meaningful, and aligned with who you really are. Think about it, dear listener. How much of your daily stress comes from expectations you never chose? From trying to keep up with an image or to meet standards set by someone else? What would change in your life if you dared to let go, if you allowed yourself to simply be? That is where freedom begins. Not in constant striving, but in the courage to stop trying to be everything and start living as yourself. 2. The value of suffering. At the heart of Manson's philosophy lies a truth we often try to avoid. Life is suffering. No matter who you are, you will face pain, failure, rejection, loss. Yet, instead of denying this reality, Manson urges us to embrace it, because it is through suffering that life gains meaning. Think about it. The things that matter most to us are often born from struggle. A parent sacrifices sleep and comfort for their child. An artist endures rejection after rejection to bring beauty into the world. A student wrestles with confusion before finally mastering a new skill. It is not the absence of problems that makes life meaningful, but the presence of problems worth solving. Manson challenges the modern obsession with comfort and ease. He reminds us, you cannot have a life without pain, but you can choose what pain is worth enduring. Do you suffer for chasing endless approval on social media? Or do you suffer for building a relationship of depth and honesty? Do you suffer from trying to impress everyone, or from focusing on one dream that truly matters to you? Dear listener, pause for a moment and ask yourself, what are you suffering for right now? Is it a suffering that leads to growth, love, or contribution? Or is it suffering that drains your soul without purpose? Meaning comes when we stop running from pain and instead choose the right pain, the kind that shapes us, strengthens us, and connects us to something greater than ourselves. 3. The power of values. Manson tells us something crucial. Not all values are created equal. Many of us live our lives chasing shallow values: wealth, status, appearance, popularity. And while society applauds these, they often leave us empty. Why? Because they depend on things outside our control, and because they constantly shift like sand beneath our feet. Imagine this. If your happiness depends on how many likes you get on Instagram, you'll always be at the mercy of strangers. If your worth is measured by money alone, no amount will ever be enough. Manson argues that a meaningful life requires better values, values rooted in reality, growth, and responsibility. Values like honesty, humility, perseverance, curiosity, and love. These are not flashy, but they are stable. They give us direction even when the world around us changes. He also stresses that good values are controllable. You cannot control whether people respect you, but you can control whether you act with integrity. You cannot control if life hands you success, but you can control your effort, your discipline, and your courage. Dear listener, this is where reflection becomes vital. What values guide your decisions? Are they lifting you up or weighing you down? Choosing the right values is like choosing the compass for your journey. With poor values, no matter how far you travel, you'll always feel lost. With strong values, even in hardship, you will walk with purpose. 4. Radical responsibility. Mark Manson reminds us we don't control everything that happens in life. Accidents, betrayals, illnesses, and losses will come whether we like it or not. But here's the truth that sets us free. While we can't control circumstances, we can always control how we respond. This is what he calls radical responsibility, the courage to own your reactions, your choices, and ultimately, your destiny. Think about it. Two people may face the same tragedy. One falls into bitterness and blame, while the other rises with resilience and growth. The difference lies not in the event, but in the meaning they give it, and the choices they make after. Manson is clear. Responsibility does not mean fault. If someone wrongs you, it may not be your fault, but it's still your responsibility how you carry that pain forward. If life throws hardship your way, you didn't choose it, but you choose whether it breaks you or builds you. Dear listener, reflect for a moment. How often do we give away our power by blaming others, the system, or the past? What if, starting today, you reclaimed that power by saying, "I didn't choose this, but I choose how I respond"? Responsibility is not a burden, it is freedom. Because when you own your life, no one else can control it for you. 5. Failure is the way forward. Our culture often treats failure like a stain, something to be avoided at all costs. We chase perfection, polish our images, and hide our mistakes. Yet Mark Manson flips the script. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is the foundation of success. Every achievement, every skill, every breakthrough is built upon layers of failure. The child learning to walk stumbles 1,000 times before the first confident step. The entrepreneur who builds a thriving company often has a trail of failed attempts behind them. Even love, the deepest connection of all, often requires heartbreaks before we learn how to give and receive it fully. Manson urges us to stop fearing failure and start using it. Each failure is feedback, a guide pointing us toward growth. The real danger isn't falling short, it's refusing to try or giving up too soon. Think about it, dear listener. When was the last time you held back out of fear of failing? How many dreams have we buried not because they were impossible, but because we feared rejection, embarrassment, or discomfort? Failure is painful, yes. But it is also honest. It strips away illusions and teaches us what truly works. And most importantly, failure humbles us, keeping us grounded and open to learning. So let us remember, the road to any worthy life is paved not with constant victories, but with the courage to stumble forward, again and again. 6. The freedom of saying no. Mark Manson reminds us of something most people forget. Every yes is also a no. When you say yes to everything, to obligations, distractions, demands, you are unconsciously saying no to your time, your energy, and your deeper purpose. Modern life pushes us to spread ourselves thin. Say yes to every opportunity. Please everyone, never disappoint. But this is the surest road to burnout and emptiness. Real strength lies in the courage to say no. Boundaries are not walls, they are doors. They protect your energy, your values, your well-being. Without them, people and circumstances will drain you, leaving little left for what truly matters. Think about it. A relationship without boundaries turns into resentment. A career without boundaries consumes your health. A life without boundaries becomes a blur of obligations, leaving no room for meaning. Manson argues that by rejecting what doesn't matter, we make space for what does. Every time you say no to something superficial, you are saying yes to something deeper. Your growth, your loved ones, your peace of mind. Dear listener, Ask yourself, what have you been afraid to say no to? Where are you giving away your time, your energy, your life, to things that don't align with your values? The subtle art is not about caring for nothing. It's about caring deeply, but only for what deserves your heart. 7. Certainty is an illusion, and doubt is the birthplace of growth. My dear listener, we now arrive at one of Mark Manson's most piercing truths. Certainty is an illusion, and doubt is the birthplace of growth. How often do we cling to the comfort of being right? How often do we build walls around our opinions, fearing they might be challenged? Yet life, in its infinite wisdom, whispers that certainty is a fragile shell, and when it cracks, wisdom seeps through. Manson reminds us that the most dangerous words are not "I don't know," but "I know it all." For when we admit that we don't know, we open ourselves to learning. When we embrace doubt, we allow curiosity to lead us further than arrogance ever could. Think of the greatest discoveries in history. They did not begin with certainty, but with a question. Newton wondered why the apple fell. Einstein wondered if time itself could bend. Even in our own lives, the moments that shaped us most were not when we claimed to have all the answers, but when we humbled ourselves to seek them. So, my friend, let us not fear uncertainty. Let us walk with it hand in hand, knowing that it sharpens our vision, humbles our ego, and deepens our humanity. In doubt, there is life. In questions, there is freedom. And in freedom, there is the courage to become more than we were yesterday. 8. Death is the compass of life. My dear listener, we now come to the heart of Mark Manson's philosophy. Death is the compass of life. It may sound somber, even unsettling, but think about it. Every breath we take is borrowed, every moment is fleeting, and every life, no matter how vast or humble, has an end. Manson insists that facing this truth is not morbid, but liberating. For when we remember our mortality, we finally see what truly matters. How many of our daily worries, the likes, the approvals, the possessions, will matter on our deathbed? Very few, if any. But love will matter. Integrity will matter. The lives we touched, the courage we showed, the truth we lived, those will remain like echoes beyond our time. Death, then, is not our enemy, it is our greatest teacher. It strips away the noise and reveals the essence of life, to live authentically, to give generously, and to embrace the limited time we have with depth, not distraction. So, dear friend, let us not run from this reminder. Let us let it guide us, to stop living for what doesn't count, and to pour ourselves into what does. For in remembering death, we learn how to truly live. My dear listener, we have walked together through the pages of Mark Manson's The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Feck. And what a journey it has been. We learned that life is not about avoiding problems, but about choosing the right ones worth our effort. That true values are not found in shallow pleasures, but in deep truths that endure. That saying no gives meaning to our yes, and that rejection is not the end of the road, but the path to authenticity. We discovered that pain is not an enemy, but a sculptor, shaping us into who we are meant to be. We embraced humility, recognizing that certainty is an illusion and growth comes from questions. And finally, we bowed before life's greatest truth, that death is the compass pointing us back to what truly matters. Manson's voice is raw, even unsettling, but beneath the blunt words lies a timeless wisdom. That freedom is not found in caring about everything, but in caring deeply about a few things that give our lives purpose. And so, dear friend, let me leave you with this thought. In a world that demands your attention at every turn, may you be brave enough to withhold it. In a culture that tells you to want more, may you have the courage to want less, but better. And in a life that is fleeting, may you live not by the noise of the crowd, but by the quiet pulse of your own truth. Thank you for sharing this moment with me. Until our next journey together, may you walk lightly, live deeply, and choose wisely what you give your heart to.